Twins stop their 6-game losing streak and get back to 500 after clobbering the Reds 12-5. Byron Buxton hits 2 more home runs, but it remains to be seen if his career season at the plate moves the needle at the All-Star Game ballot box. Harrison Bader says he's really into Japanese denim. Of course he is. The road trip is over. The Brewers are next, but first, you must get Locked On Twins.
You are Locked On Twins, your daily Minnesota Twins podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello again, everybody, and welcome back to Locked On Twins, your daily go-to source for the top Minnesota Twins insights, discourse, and analysis. Personally, it's my favorite show of the Imperial Locked On Podcast Network, which, by the way, brings you your team every day. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe where applicable. I'm Dave Brown, an MLB writer who is considering selling all of his jeans to some desperate collector in Tokyo. Across the Great Plains of cyberspace is Brandon Warne, who always wears the pants in this podcast. At least that's how he wanted to look. Brandon was a Twins fan who became a Twins writer, and now he's both. Once again, you can find our work at Access Twins and Zone Coverage. On the show today, the Twins' losing streak is over after peppering the Reds with 4 home runs. Byron Buxton hit 2 of them to continue his remarkable season at the plate. Instead of listening to this podcast, actually, you should go and vote for Buck for the All-Star Game up to 5 times or more if you can hack that somehow. Audra on the broadcast did a fashion feature on Chris Paddack, but the low-key star was Harrison Bader, who revealed that he is really into Japanese denim. What the heck? Bailey Ober pitched Wednesday, not today, and it didn't start out great, but by the end, he actually looked like the best version of himself. Maybe he's got his mechanical crud figured out. But first, before we get into all that stuff, today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Here's what you got to do. You got to download the Game Time app. You got to create an account, and then you must use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. What time is it, Brandon?
Game time.
It's game time. So that's what's going on there. Brandon, the Twins, when they struggle, they have a way of making fans feel like it's a never-ending tailspin. It was an agonizing 6-game losing streak that dropped them under 500. They actually came in having lost 10 of 12, but they got back to even Thursday by salvaging a win against the Reds in the final game of the road trip. Byron Buxton continued his remarkable renaissance. It's really his best offensive season, I think. At least in progress. He did slug 640 something.
Yeah, that was like 60 games though, whatever. He's
yeah.
Pound for pound, I think it will be his best offensive season. And he became
knock on wood, but yes.
He forgave us for not being sure. I believe he's the first Twin / Senator ever that doesn't include any sort of games where the Democrats and Republicans play each other. To hit a homer in the first 3 innings of each of 3 games in the same series, I believe, or maybe it was the first to have 4 homers in the first 3 innings of each game. Either way, uncharted territory, and he looks all the way where he has ever been, which is great because they have needed him. He single-handedly got the game off to a jolting start amidst raindrops in Cincinnati on Wednesday. Shame it didn't come back to mean much, but yeah, he's playing like the best version of himself. Carlos Correa coming through with 3 hits on Thursday and multi-hit games from Buck, obviously, Correa, France, Jeffers, and Kody Clemens looking like he's finding that second wind. So yes, a really nice day offensively, 12 runs, 17 hits. Just in general, looking like I think you and I had both hoped coming into the season.
So who knows how long they'll sustain this. The Brewers are coming in next. Like I said, the road trip is over. We were worried about the previous road trip to the minor league ballparks, but this one was much more, I already said agonizing, but it fits. They did have a couple of walk-off
maybe
losses.
Maybe not as damaging.
Well, it certainly was. I mean, the results were worse, but
I just mean losing Pablo and Zebby. It was more agonizing to watch this than it was it was more agonizing, but not damaging. Is just my thought. I'm willing to be wrong.
No, I mean, well, whatever adjective you want to use in the negative sense, it wasn't a great road trip, but it did end. They have a way of making you feel like the world is ending, and it might actually technically be doing that.
Yeah.
But they also have a way of making you think, well, maybe everything's going to be all right. I don't know. They put on the home run helmet, and Ryan Jeffers got into the act. We were kind of worried about his hand being busted, and he missed some time there in the middle of the series. And they weren't even sure if he was going to play today. But he hit a home run and drove in 4 runs. And
first homer against a lefty all year, by the way.
Well, he doesn't have a lot of home runs against anybody. So I don't know. I don't know what to make of Ryan sometimes. There's a drag on the ball this year. Maybe that's it. Maybe he's just.
He also leads MLB in, and this is the weirdest thing, walk rate against left-handed pitchers. They're walking him at like a 30% clip. So it's weird. He's having a weird year and not a particularly great one behind the plate, if I'm being candid.
No, not really. The manager will still hit him periodically higher in the order. I think drawing those walks against the lefties is a reason why he does do that. He wasn't. I think he was 8th today, wasn't he? In the order,
he was in the bottom of the order.
Can't really get away with that. Can't really get away with that. Not that there are a whole bunch of people hitting in the lineup, but Buxton is a guy who is doing very well. Dan Hayes was keeping up with his up to the second statistics, and he's slashing. Byron Buxton is 280, 343, 555. Good for a 149 weighted runs created, adjusted stat you can pick up at Fangraphs. 16 home runs and 12 stolen bases. 13th in the recent the first round of All-Star balloting updates. So, I mean, that could still go up. The thing about it is, he's probably not going to finish in the top 3 because that's Aaron Judge. I guess he could catch Mike Trout, who's got 475. He's about 250,000 behind Mike Trout, so probably not. And he also has to leap over like 10 other guys to do it. But good balloting will, finishing well in the balloting will put a bug in the ear of people who pick the All-Star team and said, hey, maybe fans want to see this guy in a secondary sort of way. So Twins fans should do better at the ballot box. I know there's lots of reasons to maybe not go to games or watch games on TV. That's all valid. If you don't like how the poll ads are running things or how Twins TV is going about its business in an overall sense or whatever. But it is, I don't want to say your duty, but you could vote for Byron Buxton more than you have, Twins fans. You should get on that because he should be at the All-Star game. I do think, though, like no matter how they vote, I think Duran had a good chance. I don't know about that. Joe Ryan has a chance, but there's a bunch of guys with an ERA under 2 that are having better seasons than Joe Ryan. Joe Ryan would be, to me, a guy that would make the All-Star team like after some injuries or some guys say they can't go. Yeah. Byron Buxton is clearly the Twins All-Star. And I'm not saying they don't deserve anyone else, but nobody deserves it as much as Byron Buxton. I mean, this isn't just us being giddy about him being on the field. He's producing pretty much like he never has before with health that he hasn't had in years.
Right.
He deserves to go. And it's in Georgia, whatever. If you don't want to vote for him, I'm not going to throw any more shade your way, but you're blowing it.
Well, and Willie Castro is a utility guy. I mean, 3 walks today and a hit, scored 3 runs.
No, Willie Castro's got a really good
case
slash line.
Is he
doesn't have a good case for the All-Star team. He doesn't.
No. Well, based on his play alone, you could say maybe as a utility guy, but Buxton deserves it that much more. How's that for phrasing? You put Willie Castro in his place a lot. Yeah.
Don't let up on he doesn't deserve the All-Star game. He doesn't. I mean, he's had a nice offensive season, but he's got misadventures in the bases, strange things in the outfield. He'd be like the 7th or 8th choice at whatever we're trying to pigeonhole him in. And it's just not No, it's Byron Buxton because he's at the top of the list as far as center fielders in baseball. That is a million times more impressive than what Castro's doing. And I'm not hating on Willie Castro. I'm just saying, just Byron Buxton, and don't worry about anybody else. We are going to take our first break, and then when we come back, we will talk more Minnesota Twins baseball because that's what we do.
Jumped the gun on kicking you off there. I apologize. But let's be real. We got to talk about coffee. Coffee, not just a drink. There's mine from this morning. It's a ritual, a lifeline thing that gets you away from half asleep to fully functioning. And if it's that essential, why should you settle for anything less than amazing? That's where Trade Coffee comes in. It's the #1 coffee destination in the United States, delivering fresh, incredible coffee from over 50 of the nation's top roasters. Whether you're a cold brew, pour over purist, cold brew fan, or a pour over purist, I don't want to combine those two. Coffee enthusiasts will tell you they're very different, and it's true. It's accurate. No matter what you like, though, they have a roast you'll love. I took Trade's quiz, took me just a minute, and they sent me that first bag right on the spot with the notes I wanted them to hit, how I wanted it to finish, everything. You may even learn something about your coffee preferences that you didn't know before, because I know I did. And their prices are comparable to grocery store brands, but the flavor is on a whole nother level. It'll ruin grocery store coffee for you. And I apologize for that, but not really. Right now, Trade is exclusively offering our customers 50% off your 1-month trial at drinktrade.com/lockedonmlb. That's TRADE, like nice trade, Falvey, because Spencer Steer and Christian Encarnacion Strand had good series against them. .com/lockedonmlb for 50% off your 1-month trial. I should probably run that one more time. That's trade.com/lockedonmlb, 50% off.
Locked On Twins is back. The Twins are back in the winning column with a 12-5 victory against the Reds.
Yes. Yeah. 12-17 and 0-5-10. And I don't have the Reds errors. It's being blocked by an extension on my computer.
Oh, good. It's probably some kind of subterfuge by their media relations department. So bad Reds.
0 errors for the Reds. No, it was an error-free ball game. How do you like that?
Well, I'm glad. I'm glad for everyone.
Glad.
We mentioned Kody Clemens. I thought he didn't have any home runs in June, but he had one.
He barely played, too, to be fair. I mean, all these lefties, and they're going to get another one in Quintana. So, yeah, I was listening to a podcast, and they said, hard times, baby. Ric Flair, Dusty Rhodes. It's been hard times for Kody Clemens getting into the lineup here recently, and his numbers have slipped besides, so it's tough. I just got him in my score sheet draft, though, so I'm hoping he can hang on and have some production here the rest of the way.
Well, he was never going to be as hot as he was in May for the entire season when he slugged .623. So he started this tone of the somebody called somebody Dairy Bonds the other day, and I thought it was hilarious.
Dairy Bonds?
Dairy Bonds, because I think because the player was white.
Like or Brewers. Maybe a brewer.
I don't know. But I thought that was clever in its own way. Kody coming in 3 for 28 this month. I heard, I didn't look it up, but one of the Twins guys that I follow, who follows things closely, I think it was Prime Mackey, said he had some good peripherals this month that led him to believe that Clemens would start hitting. And I think, Kody Clemens maybe deserves his own show at some point. I don't mean like we should have him do a podcast every day, but I mean, like we should talk about Kody Clemens. He did in June. This is interesting. 14 games in June, 28 at bats. So like you said, not playing that much. 5 walks, 1 strikeout. So while he wasn't hitting for power and he wasn't getting on base, he sort of turned that thing around because he had 20 strikeouts in May. Not, in 70 at bats, not 70 plate appearances, not a small amount.
20 strikeouts for Clemens, you don't say.
Not about that. So I guess long way of what I'm saying is, to a degree, I think Kody Clemens is for real. And I don't know about everyday player, but sort of in the Willie Castro way, you put him out there, second base, DH, whatever, every once in a while. And I think he's going to be, that was a tank. I didn't see the numbers on it today, but that was an absolute tank that he hit to give them a lead. It was really good looking home run. He had a nice funky bat drop as well. So I like it when the straight lace guys sometimes get into that bat drop thing. It was a really good, aesthetically pleasing home run. So that was good in addition to all the other things. But some of these guys who are ahead of Buxton in the voting, it doesn't make any. I mean, it does make sense in a way.
Yeah,
I mean, three of the who's doing the job is Tigers fans. They're very enthusiastic.
Yes, they are.
Riley Green, Javier Baez, and Kerry Carpenter are all in the top 7.
That's Kerry bonds to you, by the way. Oh, and 1078, 403 on the distance for Clemens. I have a Clemens thought before we run to our second break. We got a little time yet, but it's going to feed into something you've been saying.
Well, so I can see Riley Green instead of Byron Buxton. Sure. I mean, he's not technically having a better season. I don't really have a problem with that. But Javier Baez and Kerry Carpenter are part-time players. You know, they're platooned basically.
Yes.
So that's no good. Mike Trout, I can see having more, even though he's struggling to always be the Mike Trout of old. I can see why people would want to. I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with Stephen Kwan having more votes than Byron Buxton. That's okay too. Cody Bellinger, ordinary. George Springer, ordinary. Julio Rodriguez, I would have expected him to actually be maybe in the top 5.
Yeah.
That's the guy who might start in center instead of Bonds.
Trout.
So instead of Buck, so Bonds. But Jaron Duran has more votes. Trent Grisham, come on.
Yeah. He's having a
worst body language in the league. He is, but he's struggled in the last month. They needed the worst body language of any player I've ever seen in my life.
They needed an outfielder to take the weird body language mantle from Aaron Hicks, didn't they? I
don't remember Aaron Hicks's body language, but
I don't want to be here language, I
don't know. With Grisham, he has like a left-handed person's body language. You know, he kind of has that lilt to the side, and maybe that's what it is. And it's not.
That's me.
I don't want to be here. Maybe it's just I'm left-handed.
Yeah, well, I can relate to that. On Clemens, it also has allowed the Twins to let Edouard Julien get that time in the minors that you have been pushing so adamantly for, and he's been hitting fairly well. I've seen a couple big hits, big home runs, and so hey, if Clemens standalone value, like I was trying to argue that Christian Vasquez has more value than the numbers show, based on when he takes his mound visits, when he does the little veteran tricks to slow down the game for the young guys. Clemens just allowing Julien, or I mean, maybe to some degree Miranda, he's not really swinging it anyway. Those guys to get right or at least find themselves at St. Paul. You know, we saw it with Wallner last year. He needed some time to find himself. And Miranda's he had a hand issue, like a wrist issue. Those take a while. They will sap your strength. They will sap your hitting. Clemens simply existing to give those guys chances to get right at St. Paul brings some value to the table.
Well, I think, I have been adamant about a long reset in the minors for Julien. I think he still probably needs more time. But I will say this. If Clemens is doing his thing, I don't know where Julien's at bats are going to come from if you bring him up. I don't see
you need the outfield to open up. Yeah, you need the outfield or somewhere first base, maybe a lefty righty.
Yeah, no, it would have there some kind of an injury or something else going on that nobody wants to talk about.
We don't want that blood on our hands.
No, so it's the long reset in the minors is what Julien needed last year. I think pretty plainly, and they didn't feel like they had another option. I don't know if you go to Peyton Neal's at this time last year. But they went back to Julien right before the All-Star break, and it didn't do him any favors. So at this point, we're going to take our second break. And then when we come back, Brandon, what we're going to do, we're going to talk more about the Twins. Can you?
Hey,
I can't believe it.
Have you ever decided at the last minute to head to a ball game and it's with your friends or your family? We're coming up on a weekend here, and sometimes that's the case. Twins going to be in town, and if you want to get a look at the ball game against the Brewers, Game Time is the app for you. It's the easiest way to grab last-minute tickets without the stress. With the money you save on tickets, you can splurge on food, drinks, merch, even invite a bigger group to come with you. Who doesn't love spending more time with more people? Don't answer that. Game Time, though, will make it possible. Game Time makes buying tickets fast and simple. The prices on the apps actually drop the closer you get to first pitch. And they've got incredible last-minute deals, clear seat views, and the lowest price guarantee that takes the worry out of buying. And, of course, as I like, the all-in pricing. Toggle that button, and there's no surprise at the end of the transaction how much you will be spending on tickets. It's got last-minute tickets and zone deals for big savings like 10% off, exclusive zone deals for FIFA Club World Cup matchups. Certainly something I'm not going to get to, but you might like that. And Game Time wants to help you out. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply, but again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download the Game Time app. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
Locked On Twins returns for our final segment for Thursday, June 19th. Brewers coming in. Brandon mentioned maybe going to Game Time for some Twins tickets at the last second. I'm not sure how to pronounce his last name. Jacob Misiorowski?
I think that's what it is. And I'm probably not on the Eno Saris level of mispronouncing names, but I'm pretty close. Misiorowski, and I think this is second big league start. I'm looking just to be sure.
No, it is.
Big time talent, big time arm, averaged 98.8 on his fastball in his debut. And then he had a hiccup, I think, with I don't know if it was a hamstring or what it was, but he came off the early. He rolled his ankle, didn't he?
He did, but that wasn't. He's okay because of that. He was dehydrated. He had a cramp.
Got it.
And I don't know if that had something to do. I don't think the ankle, he didn't hurt any tendons or muscles or whatever on it. So, but he's a tall drink of water and a skinny dude.
Yep.
And he's from the greater Kansas City area as well. But he throws really hard, and people are all gaga about him. People have been waiting for Bubba Chandler to come up from the Pirates, but this guy actually might be better. Yep. So that's a heck of a way to. We'll see what the Twins can do with him on Friday against Joe Ryan, or with Joe Ryan going up against him.
Yep.
Jose Quintana and SWR on Saturday, and Quinn Priester, actually another Chicago, or a kid from Chicago area. Kerry,
the Dave Brown connection.
Festa, yeah. On Quinn Priester would have. I had left that newspaper by then, but that was that's the Northwest Territory, as we used to call it. Anyway, Quinn Priester against David Festa on Sunday. So that's what's coming up with the Brewers.
And Priester's been pretty decent for a guy that was traded, kind of an afterthought from the Red Sox.
Yeah, that's a guy who I think he was a top 100 prospect.
Yeah, it's a post-type situation for sure.
It's just he's one of those guys that people still think, oh, this guy's going to be good. So, and I don't think he's had so many chances that, he bloom off the rose. He's one of those guys that gets traded because people want to have him. One of those kind of things.
Yeah.
I did want to make a couple of points. The funniest thing that happened in the game. Sometimes baseball games are funny. Audra did on Twins TV did a little fashion feature on the sheriff, Chris Paddack, and what he likes to wear. Very Western themed. He'll go to he'll enter in a cowboy hat and have a Western rodeo shirt and lots of denim.
Bolo tie, maybe.
Yeah, maybe a bolo tie. He'll look the part of a sheriff. And Harrison Bader noted that while he digs Paddack sort of finding his own groove as far as what he wears, Bader differs in the kind of denim that he likes, because Bader is a Japanese denim guy. And apparently this is a fad that I have not really paid much attention to. I don't know. You spend some of your time on Poshmark. Maybe you see Japanese denim on there all the time.
If I have, I didn't know it.
So there's a difference between Japanese. There's a couple things at play. There's a difference between Japanese denim and American denim, because what they do is they don't treat it the same way with the same chemicals that like Levi's does.
Oh yeah.
Or it's more natural in how, the kind of the subtle patterns that will develop on the denim. So there's that. And they also use like old school looms, and I don't know how you make jeans, but however you made jeans 100 years ago, that's how the people that know what they're doing in Japan, that's how they do it. And it's like it's funny. I'm a child of the 80s, and it used to be that if Americans ever went into like the Soviet bloc, if they ever went to Moscow on a vacation, they'd bring a suitcase full of jeans and like pay their way through the black market of Moscow with jeans. But now apparently you can bring your jeans to Japan and like get into their government or something. You can like run their become a big shot in Japan if you give them enough denim.
I knew of an exchange student that their host family's, like their host brother, as they were leaving to come back, like stole all their jeans out of their luggage and kept them. So it's
hilarious.
definitely was a thing. I don't remember what country or even when it was, probably late 90s. And so that's always stuck with me. But that's a really funny, like Bader strikes me as kind of a goofy, like fun to be around kind of guy. And then when they asked Larnach's like, you know what? I don't really know too much about what Paddack's up to, but
I don't know anything about fashion. But if it works for him,
yeah,
that's sort of the answer that you would expect. And then Bader interjects, well, let me just do this. It's not a criticism, but just let me differentiate between the kind of denim that he likes and the kind of denim that I like. So
yep.
It was funny too because LaTroy, there I go with Kaufman.
Yeah. Well,
did you hear what LaTroy said about how when you go to Japan, if you want to buy Japanese denim, you like have to make an appointment 3 months ahead of time?
120 days, I think he said. Yeah, like it's not some kind of like anti-American thing either. It's just that's the level of demand, right?
The level of demand, but also there's a certain craftsmanship to it that the home folks love in Japan. So it is a very funny, and I mean chuckle and peculiar pop culture thing going on over there. It usually is. They have a different take on everything. Yes. I kind of like it. I'm glad. I'd like to visit. I don't know that I could handle being there for longer than a visit, but it seems like an interesting place for reasons like that.
Yes.
There's another baseball thing that I wanted to mention before we go. And that was Bailey Ober pitching Wednesday. And it didn't start out very good, but by the time maybe the late in the third inning, fourth inning, he started to hit his spots more. He's been messed up with his mechanics all season, coming from a hip. We're not going to call it an injury out of respect to Rocco.
Mm-hmm.
A hip irritation, something that was making him be off just a little bit with his release point or his timing or whatever. But Dan Hayes noted that he had a bunch of really good expected batting averages in a row.
Yep.
His last 6 expected batting averages before his last one, before the rains came, 060, 010, 090, 010, 140, 10. So if Bailey Ober is getting back to what he needs to be, that's really good news for the Twins.
It reminded me of a dental procedure. It's like, oh man, this starts out painful and you're like, oh, I shouldn't have done this. And then by the end, you're like, oh yeah, that was worth it. That's good. We got to the end. We got something figured out. We got something fixed. And now we're in a good place. So I'm glad that, I guess I wish the game hadn't gone the way it did, but I'm glad that for Bailey Ober, things turned around and he looks to be heading in the right direction.
It's really huge for the Twins too, because they, with the starting pitchers that are out, they need Paddack to have games that were kind of, this wasn't Paddack's best game either, but it was better than his previous start. So Ober needs to be a little bit more like Ober was last year for the Twins to get on a roll. They're back at 500. We'll see how they do against the Brewers. That's going to do it for this episode. But before we leave, we want to make sure that we want to thank you for making Locked On Twins your first listen today. And for your second listen, check out the all-new Locked On MLB Game Night. MLB Game Night, which brings you every game, every night, all season long. You can't beat it. Get local analysis on a national scale. What do you do next? You find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. So for my friend Brandon Warne, this is Dave Brown wishing you all a very pleasant good evening, saying we will, Alexei, Casilla, tomorrow night.